The helicopter spun through the blizzard, its rotors screaming against the wind. Metal groaned. Sparks exploded from the cockpit. Olivia Hale gripped her seat, blood streaming down her temple, and screamed into the chaos. "Leave me! The pilot's gone! There's no one left to save!" Through the shattered window, a figure appeared in the snow, broad-shouldered, moving fast. Noah Reed didn't hesitate. He tore through the wreckage, smoke choking his lungs, flames licking at his jacket. "I'm not going anywhere," he said, his voice raw. He pulled her from the burning frame, wrapped his body around hers as the fuel tank ignited. The explosion lit up the mountainside like a second sun. Heat and light consumed everything. White light swallowed the world. Metal shrieked. The snow turned orange. And then silence. Complete, absolute silence. 2 days earlier, Seattle woke under a blanket of frost. Olivia Hale stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her downtown penthouse, watching the city lights flicker on as dawn broke. At 32, she commanded one of America's most innovative aviation companies. The Wall Street Journal had called her relentlessly brilliant. Forbes put her on their 40 Under 40 cover. But this morning, Olivia only saw the emptiness reflected in the glass. Another night of 4 hours sleep. Another day of proving herself worthy of the Hale name. Her phone buzzed, the 5th time in 20 minutes. "Yes, Marcus, I know about the meeting with the investors." Her voice was steady, practiced. "I'll be there in 30, and yes, I've reviewed the IPO projections." She ended the call and turned to the pristine, untouched kitchen. No time for breakfast. No time for anything but Hale Aviation. Across town in the small community of St. Haven, nestled against the northern mountains, Noah Reed stood in the doorway of a weathered wooden house, watching his daughter zip up her coat. Sophia was 8 years old with tangled blonde hair and her mother's eyes. She held a model helicopter in her hand. "Did you really fly this high, Dad?" she asked, tilting the toy toward the sky. Noah smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Once. Now I just fly in memory." He drove her to school in an old pickup truck that rattled over icy roads. The radio played classic rock. Sophia hummed along, her breath fogging the window. At the gate, she turned back. "You'll pick me up, right?" Noah nodded. "Always." He worked as a radar technician at St. Haven Air Traffic Control, a job that kept him grounded in every sense of the word. The station sat on a hill overlooking the valley, surrounded by pine trees and silence. Inside, the walls were lined with monitors, each tracking flights across the northern corridor. Noah's desk was cluttered with coffee mugs and old flight logs. On the corner sat a framed photo, him, Sophia, and a woman with dark hair and a soft smile. His wife, Rebecca. Dead 10 years. He didn't talk about her, not to his co-workers, not to Sophia, not even to himself most days. But she was there in every decision he made, every late night shift he volunteered for, every time he refused to get back in the cockpit. Flying had been his life once. He'd been one of the best rescue pilots in the Pacific Northwest, trained to navigate storms that grounded everyone else. But that was before. Before the crash, before the loss, before everything changed. That afternoon, his supervisor leaned into the break room. "Reed, you hear about tomorrow? Hale Aviation's doing a test flight. Big demo for the press. Their new X9 model." Noah's hand froze on his coffee cup. "Hale?" The supervisor nodded. "Yeah, CEO's flying with the pilot herself. Gutsy move, if you ask me." Noah said nothing. He stared at the steam rising from his mug, his jaw tight. The name Hale hadn't crossed his path in years. He'd made sure of it, buried it, tried to forget it. But hearing it now brought everything back. The anger, the grief, the betrayal. That evening, he signed up for the overnight shift. "Just want to make sure the radar doesn't glitch again," he told his supervisor. But the truth was simpler and darker. He needed to see it. He needed to know if history was about to repeat itself. Olivia Hale stood in the hangar at dawn, her tailored coat spotless against the gray concrete, her dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. Around her, engineers ran final checks on the X9, a gleaming helicopter with experimental rotors, and a navigation system her father had designed before he died. The press was already gathering outside. Investors were watching from New York. This flight wasn't just a test, it was a legacy. It was proof that Maxwell Hale's vision hadn't died with him. "Miss Hale, you don't have to do this," her lead engineer said quietly. "We can send Marcus alone." Olivia shook her head. "If I'm asking people to trust this machine, I need to trust it myself." As she climbed into the co-pilot seat, a thin engineer at the back of the hangar tucked a report into his bag, his eyes troubled. Marcus, the pilot, gave Olivia a thumbs up. The rotors began to spin. The helicopter lifted off the ground, rising into the gray morning sky. At the control tower, Noah watched the screen. The X9 signal appeared as a blinking dot, climbing steadily into the mountains. For 20 minutes, everything was normal. The signal was strong. The flight path was clean. Then the dot flickered. Red warnings flashed across the monitor. Noah leaned forward, his pulse quickening. "Tower to Hale X9, do you copy?" Static. "Hale X9, respond." The signal vanished. Noah didn't think. He grabbed his jacket, ran to his truck, and drove into the storm. The snow was blinding. Noah's windshield wipers fought against the ice, his headlights cutting weak tunnels through the white. He followed the coordinates burned into his memory from the radar, his hands gripping the wheel so hard his knuckles went pale. When he saw the wreckage, his chest tightened. The helicopter was on its side. Rotors bent, smoke pouring from the engine. Flames crept along the fuselage. He didn't see the pilot, but through the cracked window, he saw her. Olivia Hale slumped against the seat, blood on her face, her eyes half open. The snow was thick. Noah could barely see 10 feet ahead. He ran toward the wreckage, his boots sinking into the drifts. The heat from the fire hit him first, then the smoke. He shielded his face with his arm and pushed forward. Through the shattered cockpit window, he saw her clearly now. She looked at him, and for a moment, neither of them moved. Then she screamed, "Leave me! The pilot's gone! There's no one left to save!" Noah didn't answer. He tore open the door, unclipped her harness, and dragged her out just as the fuel tank caught fire. The explosion threw them both into the snow. Noah covered her body with his, felt the heat roll over them like a wave. When the flames died down, he lifted her into his arms and carried her through the forest. His lungs burned. His hands were numb. But he didn't stop. He couldn't. The cabin was small, tucked between two hills and surrounded by evergreens. Noah kicked the door open, laid Olivia on the couch near the fireplace, and wrapped her in every blanket he could find. Her breathing was shallow, her skin was cold. With practiced precision, he cleaned the blood from her forehead, bandaged the gash above her eyebrow, and checked her ribs for breaks. His movements were sure, methodical, not those of a radar technician. She didn't wake. The fire crackled. Outside, the storm howled. Noah sat in a chair across from her, his hands shaking, and stared at the woman he'd just saved. Around midnight, Sophia appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. She was supposed to be asleep in the back room where Noah had left her, with a book and a flashlight. "Dad," she whispered. "Who's that?" Noah exhaled. "Someone who got lost. Go back to bed, sweetheart." But Sophia didn't move. She walked over to the couch, looked down at Olivia, and tilted her head. "She looks like an angel who fell asleep." Noah's throat tightened. "Maybe she is." Sophia fetched another blanket from her room and tucked it around Olivia's shoulders. Then she climbed into her father's lap and fell asleep. Noah held her, his eyes on the woman breathing softly by the fire, and wondered what he'd just done. Olivia woke to the smell of wood smoke and coffee. Her head throbbed, her ribs ached. She opened her eyes and saw rough wooden beams, a stone fireplace, and a man sitting across from her with a mug in his hands. He was maybe 40, with graying brown hair, a scar along his jaw, and eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. "Where am I?" she croaked. "Safe," Noah said. "Storm's too thick to call anyone tonight. I'll get you help in the morning." Olivia tried to sit up, winced, and fell back. "Who are you?" "Just someone who was in the right place." She looked around. The cabin was modest. Weathered furniture, old maps pinned to the walls, A framed photo of a man, a little girl, and a woman who wasn't there anymore. "You saved my life," Olivia said quietly. Noah didn't answer. He handed her a glass of water. "Drink. You're dehydrated." She took it, her hands trembling. "The pilot. Marcus. Is he—" "I didn't see anyone else." Olivia's face crumpled. Noah looked away, out the window, through the thick curtain of snow. A pair of headlights moved slowly along the ridge. Someone was searching, not for survivors, for something else. In the morning, the storm had passed. A search and rescue team arrived at dawn, following the coordinates Noah had radioed in. They loaded Olivia onto a stretcher, wrapped her in thermal blankets, and escorted her to a waiting helicopter. Reporters were already gathering at the base of the mountain. Noah stayed behind, standing in the doorway of his cabin, watching the helicopter disappear into the gray sky. Sophia tugged his sleeve. "Is she going to be okay?" Noah nodded. "I think so." Inside, the TV was on. Sophia sat on the floor eating cereal, her eyes glued to the screen. The news anchor's voice filled the room. "Breaking news. Olivia Hale, CEO of Hale Aviation, has survived a catastrophic helicopter crash in the northern mountains. Authorities are calling it a miracle." Noah froze. The camera cut to footage of Olivia being carried on a stretcher, her face pale but alive. The anchor continued. "Miss Hale is the daughter of the late Maxwell Hale, founder of Hale Aviation, whose helicopters revolutionized emergency transport in the early 2000s. Noah's coffee mug slipped from his hand. It shattered on the floor. "Dad?" But Noah wasn't listening. He was staring at the screen, at the woman he'd just saved, and the name that had haunted him for a decade. Hale. 10 years ago, Noah Reed had been a rescue pilot, the best in his unit. He'd flown into hurricanes, wildfires, war zones. He'd saved hundreds of lives. And then on a cold November night, he'd lost the only one that mattered. Rebecca had been aboard a medical transport helicopter, a Hale Aviation model, when it went down over the northern ridge. "Mechanical failure," the report said. "Navigation error. No survivors." Noah had flown the search himself. He'd found the wreckage. He'd found her body. And in the weeks that followed, he'd found something else. Proof that the navigation system in that helicopter had a known defect. A defect that Hale Aviation had covered up. Maxwell Hale himself had signed off on the safety reports even after engineers flagged the issue. Noah had tried to go public, but Hale's lawyers buried him in paperwork. The FAA closed the case, and Noah, broken, furious, drowning in grief, walked away from flying forever. He'd sworn never to touch another helicopter, never to let another Hale machine take someone he loved. He'd kept that promise for 10 years, until yesterday. Now standing in his cabin, staring at the TV, Noah felt the old rage flicker back to life. He walked outside into the snow and retraced his steps to the crash site. The wreckage was still there, half buried in ice. The search team had removed the pilot's body, but they'd left the rest. Noah knelt in the snow, pulling aside twisted metal, until he found what he was looking for. A charred circuit board, blackened but intact, with the Hale Aviation logo stamped into the corner. He turned it over in his hands. His breath came in short bursts. It was the same system, the same flaw, the same design that had killed Rebecca. He tucked the board into his jacket and walked back to the cabin. Inside, Sophia was watching cartoons. Noah sat beside her, put his arm around her, and whispered, "History doesn't get to repeat itself. Not this time." He looked at the circuit board again. The metal was cold in his hands. Rebecca's face flashed in his mind, her smile, her laugh, the way she'd kissed Sophia goodnight. And now this woman, Olivia Hale, the daughter of the man who'd killed his wife. He'd saved her, and he didn't know if that made him a fool or a saint. 3 days later, Olivia Hale returned. She arrived at the St. Haven control tower in the early afternoon, dressed in a gray coat and dark jeans, her face still bruised but steady. She asked for Noah Reed at the front desk. The receptionist called him down. When he stepped into the lobby, Olivia stood. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "I wanted to thank you," she said finally, "for what you did." Noah nodded. "You're welcome." I don't even know your name. Noah. She extended her hand. Olivia. He shook it, his grip firm but brief. Olivia studied him. There was something in his eyes, something distant, guarded. You've flown before, haven't you? Noah's jaw tightened. Once. Why'd you stop? Because I had to. She didn't push. Instead, she reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. If you ever need work, call me. I owe you more than I can repay. Noah took the card. It was embossed with the Hale Aviation logo. He stared at it for a long time. When he looked up, Olivia was already walking toward the door. Miss Hale, he called. She turned. Why were you flying that day? Olivia's expression flickered, something between pride and sadness. Because someone has to believe in what we build. Noah watched her leave. Then he looked down at the card in his hand and the photograph on his desk, the one of Rebecca, smiling, holding Sophia as a baby. His hands were shaking. He wanted to tear the card in half. He wanted to call her back and tell her everything about Rebecca, about the cover-up, about the man her father really was. But he did neither. He slipped the card into his pocket and went back to work. That night, he couldn't sleep. The circuit board sat on his kitchen table like a silent accusation. Noah stared at it, his mind racing. What if what they built was broken? What if belief wasn't enough? At midnight, he made his decision. He would find proof, undeniable proof. And he would give her a choice, to be like her father or to be better. He pulled on his jacket and drove back to the crash site one more time. The moon was full, casting silver light over the snow. Noah climbed through the wreckage until he found the black box, half melted and covered in frost. It took him an hour to pry it loose. The metal was stubborn, fused by heat and ice, but he worked methodically, carefully, until it came free. Back at the cabin, he connected it to his laptop and began extracting the data. The files were corrupted, but enough survived. He cross-referenced the flight logs with the records from Rebecca's crash. The navigation error was identical, the same malfunction, the same ignored warning. But then he found something else, a signature at the bottom of the safety report that wasn't Maxwell Hale's. Jonathan Reed, acting CEO. Noah sat back, his chest tight. Jonathan Reed had been appointed after Maxwell's death. He'd known about the flaw. He'd continued the cover-up. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. A distorted voice spoke. Don't open that box, Mr. Reed. Not if you want your daughter to stay safe. The line went dead. Noah looked at Sophia asleep in the next room and felt his blood run cold. He walked to her door, pushed it open slightly, and watched her breathe. She was curled up under her blankets, clutching a stuffed bear. Safe, for now. Noah closed the door and walked back to the kitchen. The black box sat on the table, its secrets exposed. He could destroy it, pretend he'd never found it, keep Sophia safe, walk away like he did 10 years ago. Or he could do what Rebecca would have wanted. What was right? He picked up his phone and typed a message to Olivia Hale. We need to talk tomorrow. Your office. He hit send before he could change his mind. Then he sat down at the table, his head in his hands, and waited for morning. Outside, the wind picked up. Snow began to fall again. And somewhere in the darkness, someone was watching. Noah walked into the Hale Aviation headquarters at noon, a glass tower in downtown Seattle, all steel and ambition. He rode the elevator to the top floor and walked past the receptionist without a word. Olivia's office was all glass and steel, overlooking the city. She looked up from her desk, startled. Noah! He didn't sit. He pulled the circuit board from his jacket and dropped it on her desk. The charred metal landed with a dull thud. You need to see this. Olivia stared at the piece. What is it? Proof that your father's helicopters killed my wife. The room went silent. Olivia's face went pale. Noah's voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. 10 years ago, a Hale Aviation helicopter went down. Navigation failure. My wife was on board. Your father signed off on the safety report, even though he knew the system was flawed. Olivia's voice was barely a whisper. That's not possible. It's in the records, and it's happening again. He pointed to the circuit board. Same flaw, same system. Your X9 wasn't sabotaged, it was built broken. Olivia picked up the board, her fingers trembling. She opened her laptop, pulled up the engineering files, and started cross-referencing. Minutes passed. Her face grew tighter with every line she read. The office was silent except for the hum of the computer and the sound of her breathing. Finally, she looked up. Tears were streaming down her face. "Oh my God!" Noah said nothing. He just stood there, watching her world fall apart. Olivia stood, gripping the edge of her desk. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Your father did. He's dead, but his mistakes aren't. And Jonathan Reed, he continued it." Noah nodded grimly. "He's threatening my daughter." She looked at him, her voice breaking. "What do you want me to do?" Noah leaned forward. "You reopen the investigation. You pull every helicopter with that system. And you tell the truth." Olivia wiped her eyes. "If I do that, this company dies. If you don't, more people do." She nodded slowly, her jaw set. "Then I'll do it." The weight of the moment hung between them. Olivia sat down, her hands shaking, and began typing. Emails to the FAA, to the NTSB, to every regulatory body she could think of. Noah watched her, his chest tight, knowing that this woman, the daughter of the man he hated most, was about to destroy everything her father had built. And she was doing it because it was right, because it mattered, because lives were worth more than legacy. "Why are you doing this?" Noah asked quietly. Olivia looked up, tears still on her face. "Because you were right. Someone has to believe. But belief without truth is just a lie." Before either of them could speak again, an alarm blared from Noah's phone. He looked at the screen. A distress signal. A pilot missing in the northern ridge. The same area where Olivia had crashed. Noah's stomach dropped. Another X9. Olivia checked her tablet. Her face went white. "Test flight, solo pilot. He took off an hour ago." Noah looked at her. "We have to go." Olivia nodded. "I know." They ran to the elevator together. In the car, neither of them spoke. The weight of what they were about to do pressed down on them both. Noah gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. Olivia stared out the window, her jaw set. When they reached the airfield, chaos greeted them. Engineers were shouting. Radios crackled with static. The storm was building again, darker and faster than before. And somewhere in those mountains, a man was dying. Just like Rebecca had died. Just like Marcus had died. History repeating itself over and over until someone stopped it. No one at the airfield would volunteer. The storm was too heavy, the winds too strong. Olivia begged them, offered money, bonuses, anything. But the pilots shook their heads. "It's suicide," one said. "No one's getting through that." Another pilot crossed his arms. "I've got a family, Miss Hale. I'm not dying for a test flight." Noah stood by his truck, staring at the mountains. The peaks were disappearing into the clouds. Snow was already falling. Sophia's voice echoed in his head. "You'll pick me up, right?" He pulled out his phone and called her. She answered on the first ring. "Dad? Hey, sweetheart, I need to tell you something." "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, but I have to go fly." Sophia was quiet for a moment. "Like you used to?" "Yeah. Like I used to." "Is it dangerous?" Noah closed his eyes. He thought about lying, but he'd never lied to Sophia. Not once. "A little." "Then why are you going?" He looked at the mountains, then at Olivia standing by the hangar, her face pale with fear. "Because it's the right thing to do." Sophia's voice was soft. "Then do it, Dad. Do the right thing." Noah hung up. He walked to the hangar. Olivia ran over. "You don't have to do this." "Yeah, I do." "Then I'm coming with you." Noah stared at her. "That's insane. You saved my life. If I'm going to live with that, I'm going to earn it." She climbed into the co-pilot seat before he could argue. Noah started the engine. The rotors spun. The helicopter lifted into the storm. The wind was worse than Noah remembered. The helicopter shook, the controls fighting him with every gust. Snow blurred the windshield. The wipers couldn't keep up. Olivia gripped the armrest, her knuckles white. "How do you know where to go?" "I don't," Noah said. I'm following instinct. They flew deeper into the mountains, following the last known coordinates. The pilot's signal was weak, flickering on and off like a dying heartbeat. The storm battered them from all sides. Ice formed on the windshield, faster than the defroster could melt it. Then they saw it, a crumpled helicopter wedged into a narrow canyon. Its rotors snapped like broken bones. Smoke rose from the wreckage. Noah brought them down as close as he dared. The wind howled. The engine groaned. Ice was already forming on the rotors. There, Olivia said, pointing. The pilot was slumped against a rock, barely conscious. Blood stained the snow around him. His flight suit was torn. His face was pale. Noah lowered the rescue line. Olivia clipped herself in without hesitation. "What are you doing?" Noah demanded. "Getting him?" Before he could stop her, she dropped out of the helicopter. The wind swung her like a pendulum. She spun, her body twisting in the gale. But she held on. She reached the pilot, clipped the harness around him, and signaled Noah. He started the winch. The line pulled, but the weight was too much. The engine choked. More ice formed on the rotors. The helicopter tilted dangerously. The altitude gauge dropped. "We're too heavy," Noah shouted. Olivia looked up at him through the snow. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with understanding. And then she said the words that brought everything full circle, the words that echoed across 10 years. "Leave me." Noah's blood ran cold. The world slowed. He saw Rebecca's face. He saw the wreckage. He saw Sophia, 8 years old, asking if he'd pick her up. "No. Save him. I'll wait for the next team." "There is no next team." The helicopter tilted further. The engine sputtered. The altitude dropped faster. Noah looked down at Olivia hanging in the wind and made his choice. He locked the controls, clipped himself into a safety line, and dropped down beside her. "What are you doing?" Olivia screamed. "Not leaving you," Noah said. His voice was steady, certain, final. He pulled the pilot into his arms with one hand, wrapped his other arm around Olivia, and signaled the winch. The helicopter groaned under the weight. The rotors screamed. The line pulled them up, inch by agonizing inch. The wind tore at them. Ice broke free from the rotors in chunks. The engine choked, coughed, and somehow kept running. They cleared the canyon wall. The storm swallowed them completely. White light filled the sky. The helicopter spun. The controls failed. Metal shrieked, and then everything went silent. The world disappeared into white. And in that moment, suspended between earth and sky, Noah felt peace. He'd done it. He'd stayed. He'd broken the cycle. History would not repeat itself. Not today. The search team found them at dawn. The helicopter had landed hard in a snowbank 2 miles from the crash site. Its rotors bent, its engine dead, but intact. The pilot was unconscious but breathing. Paramedics worked on him immediately, stabilizing his vitals, loading him onto a stretcher. He would live. Olivia had a broken wrist and a gash across her forehead that would need stitches. Blood matted her hair. Her coat was torn, but she was conscious, alert, already trying to stand. Noah was unresponsive. His hands still gripped the safety line that had kept all 3 of them tethered. His breathing was shallow. His face was pale. They airlifted him to Seattle General. Sophia sat by his bedside for a week, holding his hand, whispering stories. She told him about school, about her friends, about the new model helicopter she was building in the garage. She told him she loved him. She told him she was proud of him. She told him that Mom would be proud too. On the 8th day, Noah opened his eyes. Sophia burst into tears. "Dad!" He smiled, his voice weak. "Hey, sweetheart. You scared me." "I scared myself." She hugged him, careful of the tubes and wires connecting him to machines. "You did the right thing, Dad." Noah's throat tightened. He pulled her close. "Yeah, I did." A knock at the door. Olivia stepped inside, her arm in a sling, her face bruised but steady. A white bandage covered the stitches on her forehead. "Can I come in?" Sophia nodded. Olivia walked to the bedside. She set a folder on the table beside the flowers and get-well cards. "I reopened the investigation. All of it. Your wife's crash, the X9 system, Every helicopter my father ever signed off on. Noah stared at her. And your name's been cleared. The FAA is reopening Rebecca's case with full authority. Hale Aviation is grounding every helicopter with that navigation system. We're issuing a complete recall. And Jonathan Reed? Under investigation. His threats have been traced back to him. He won't hurt anyone else. Noah's eyes filled with tears. For the first time in 10 years, he felt the weight lift. The anger, the grief, the guilt. All of it lighter now. Not gone, but bearable. Thank you. Olivia shook her head. I should be thanking you. You didn't have to save me. Twice. Noah looked at Sophia, then back at Olivia. Yeah, I did. Olivia smiled, but it was sad. Bittersweet. I guess this is goodbye then. She turned to leave. Noah's voice stopped her. Olivia. She looked back. Her eyes were red, tired but clear. How many times do you think I've saved your life? I've lost count. Me too. A month later, the snow melted. Spring crept into the mountains, turning the white hills green. Wildflowers bloomed where the wreckage had been, covering the scars left by fire and metal. St. Haven Airport unveiled a new hangar dedicated to safer aviation practices and the memory of those lost to preventable accidents. In the center of the hangar sat a helicopter, gleaming and rebuilt from the ground up with a revolutionary new navigation system designed by Noah Reed himself. Its name was painted on the side in gold letters, Sophia's Wings. Olivia stood at the podium before a crowd of reporters, engineers, families who'd lost loved ones to faulty Hale aircraft, and regulatory officials from Washington. This isn't just a helicopter, she said, her voice steady and clear. It's a promise that we'll never put profit over people again, that we'll honor those we've lost by doing better, by being better. My father made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but I won't compound them by staying silent. This is our commitment to the future. The crowd applauded. Noah and Sophia sat in the front row. Sophia tugged her father's sleeve, grinning. That's so cool, Dad. They named it after me. Noah grinned back. Yeah, pretty cool. After the ceremony, Olivia found them outside standing by the edge of the airfield, watching the sun set over the mountains. Want to see the view from the top? She asked. Noah raised an eyebrow. The top of what? The mountain, where it all started. They hiked together, the three of them, to the ridge where Olivia's helicopter had crashed 3 months ago. The wreckage was gone now, cleared away and recycled. Only the meadow remained, soft and green, dotted with wildflowers. Sophia ran ahead, laughing, chasing butterflies. Noah and Olivia stood side by side, looking out over the valley. I used to think this place was cursed, Noah said quietly. And now? Olivia asked. Now I think it's where I learned to stop running. Olivia reached into her pocket and pulled out a small silver ring. Simple, elegant. It was engraved with 2 words, never leave. She held it out to him, her hand trembling slightly. I told you to leave me once. I'm asking you to stay now. Noah stared at the ring, his throat tight. He thought about Rebecca, about the years of grief and anger, about the bitterness that had consumed him. And then he thought about the woman standing beside him, the woman who'd chosen truth over legacy, who'd flown into a storm to save a stranger, who'd looked him in the eye and dismantled everything her father built because it was the right thing to do. Sophia came running back, breathless and covered in grass stains. She saw the ring and gasped. Dad, is she proposing? Olivia laughed, tears streaming down her face. I guess I am. Noah slipped the ring onto his finger. I stayed in the fire. I stayed in the storm. I'll stay in your life. Sophia cheered, throwing her arms around both of them. The sun broke through the clouds, warming the ridge with golden light. The flowers swayed in the gentle breeze. Olivia leaned into Noah, her head on his shoulder. Sophia wrapped her arms around both of them, completing the circle. And in that moment, on the mountain where everything had fallen apart, they became whole. The wind was gentle now. The sky was clear and endless. And when the last traces of winter melted away, no one was left behind.